I lived in Ashland for quite a lot of years. I'm a photographer. My main business was as an aerial photographer, but I also had a business which I call Projects. It's a website of photographs I've collected through travelling around the world, which I really enjoyed doing. I was looking for, Burma's always interested me. I was looking for monk type of photographs, maybe refugee photographs. I wasn't sure. I headed off to Thailand, where I did discover a very large refugee camp, 60,000 people in one. And I learnt a lot about the Burmese situation and all these Burmese flooding across the border for safety into Thailand. It was then that someone took me to the garbage dump, where there was 400 people working. They'd fled from Burma, some as many as 15 years ago, and managing to eke out a very meagre living, scavenging for bottles, plastic bags, and then bagging them and selling them. When I first saw it, I was really I was shocked. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like seeing children looking the way they did, and I really didn't like seeing children eating food out of a garbage dump. I actually felt somewhat ashamed that I was here to take photographs of this, and then I'm going to pack my bag and go. It didn't fit. It wasn't right. And I think this probably happens with other people in life. Sometimes you've got to stop, or maybe you should stop saying, they should fix this, or they should do something about this. Well, I guess I was they. It was not a difficult decision. I came back to Thailand, back to Ashland, and just sold everything, put everything in a bag, and went back with the intention of trying to make a difference. Well, this is the tough part. You know, we all at some time have ventured into projects, maybe we all have. Well, if we start, maybe we'll work it out. And that's really what it was. You know, you're looking at 400 people in very bad shape. So what are you going to do, this one person? And I looked at it, and I spent time going there every day, working it out, and then trying to find, well, what can I do, not just practically, but financially? How do you make a difference? And the first thing I came up with was rubber boots. They had no footwear. The weather's appalling, it's raining, you can imagine in the garbage what's in there, you know. So I started supplying rubber boots, and that made a difference. The problem was I could only supply them 10 pairs at a time, because I borrowed a small motorbike, and that's all I could get on this little bike. So then the realisation of, I pull up, I'm surrounded by 100 people, and I've got 10 pairs of boots. So 10 people are looking good. I've now got 90 people that are really quite disappointed. They need some help. So I just found myself going backwards and forwards on my little motorbike, supplying boots. And that was the first positive thing that I did and got me really started on this. Yeah, so as this time went by, you know, in the first year, you really become aware that there's a lot of skin diseases, infections, and I'm not a doctor. Cuts that get really infected. I found a little girl that had intestinal TB. I managed to get her into a hospital, and she lived. It took 6 months, but she survived. But while I was getting involved with that, I was also getting involved with doctors and realising that they're a source for me. So I spent time talking with doctors, they getting their help. And there was a period when I met a few medics. Some were English, I think some were Australian. And they really turned to for me. They said, you know, we'll set up a program for you. And there was an old building there, pretty ramshackled. And they put together a medical program. There was as many as, there's 10 or 12 people, if I remember right. They made care packages, which included rice, hygiene, etc. And then I got everyone together in the building, and they weighed all the children. I made the cards for them, they filled them out, and we had a program going. unfortunately we can't maintain it. We did it once at that level, but everybody got something. We know there was a lot of goodness come from that, a lot of help. But I'm now learning how to get help. So I don't have to have a big organisation. I can find people, and that's exactly what's going on now. I just find people that can help. The water situation, what I was getting was a lot of sickness, especially with the babies. Everyone was getting diarrhoea and sickness, and it changed through the year. During the rainy season, it was a little bit easier. But what I discovered was the wells were poisoned. People had put wells in over the years and they were all poisoned. And so they was getting very sick. So there's the problem. We know we've got a clean water problem. How do you solve it? We're on land that they're not supposed to be on. I'm not supposed to be building things there. I tried running bottles in and containers, small containers. It couldn't be done. It was undoable. You'd have to be doing it full time. But I came across these tanks. They're 500-gallon tanks you can buy. They're not that expensive. So I can put a tank in. But now, how do I get the water? Where do I get it from? How do I get it filled? And you're also working in a country that you don't speak the language. You can't understand the language. You can't speak to anyone. So you've got another set of problems. But anyway, it turns out in Mae Sot, where I live, that people don't drink the tap water. Most of it's delivered through trucks. So I talked to a guy that's done this sort of work, and he said he'll supply it. It's expensive. We've now got 5 water tanks, and he's actually running backwards and forwards keeping these tanks filled. But what happened was, as soon as the first tank went in, the sickness and diarrhoeas went away. We solved a problem. Well, the housing was very miserable. I got photographs of them. It was plastic sheets, whatever they could find, bits of bamboo. At one time, they was actually living on top of the garbage until one of the houses blew up thanks to the methane gas. So one of the things we're also doing is guiding them away from obvious dangers, obvious to us. The rainy season comes along, everybody's wet. The kids, everyone, you'll spend 3 to 4 months of the year soaking wet. I wanted to solve the housing problem. We didn't have the finances, but they're not that expensive. And about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from where the dump is where they actually put these thatched type of roofs together. So I knew I could afford some. I put a deal to the people that live there. If they'll work together, I'll go on to get the materials in my truck, but they've got to work together to build everyone's roof, because you've got elderly that couldn't do it, you've got pregnant women, you've got people that just don't know how to do it. So that was the deal. The deal was, we'll go and get it, I'll supply the stuff, but you've all got to work together, which is something that wasn't happening before. It was poverty is a pretty miserable thing, and it was difficult for them to work together. They do now. So we've now got roofs on houses. The kids are dry during the rainy season, and what's happened, the whole thing is lifting up now. They're feeling better, there's more hope there. We've got fresh water, we've got better housing, and we've got better medical. Well, it's a Burmese, typical type of Burmese structure, bamboo and the leaves. It's actually got quite a solid roof on it, and it's quite large, and it's what I'm going to turn into it's one building serving everything, for entertainment, clinic, a place where when people get sick they can recover. It's going to have every use possible. It's got toilet. There's no toilets where I am. This is the only place for the toilet. It's got water, it's got a water tank in it, and it's got a shower unit. So I can stay there as much as I like when I'm needed to. And it's going to be a place where people can learn and go to. But until the first building I got, which was quite a cheap building, there was no community centre. It was like there was nothing. it's got electricity. So on the first building I put in a television and a DVD player. That place is packed continually. It's a meeting place. It's where people can find me, where they can meet one another, they can watch TV, there's a place where they can cook. It's made a huge difference, not just to morale, but it's given a purpose place. You know, it's so important. And if you saw it, it's just a scruffy old building. It's probably the most important building in the area. It's very difficult at first because obviously there's a communications problems with the language. There's a distrust now of foreigners that come in and what they're going to do, and they're going to change this and do that. They make promises and they leave. It's called broken promises, which causes so much problem because they don't trust anyone. Why should they? It was 2 years before I started to break through that. And now 5 years on, we've got total trust. We're friends. So the answer to the question is, where they wouldn't have come to me with their individual problems, they do now. Or they'll take me to someone who's in big trouble, especially the kids. There's an old lady I left just before I left to come back to the States. She was in a terrible state. I managed to get her fixed up with somewhere to live until I get back. And then when I get back, and I'll work out what to do to help her out. So without that communication, you're guessing. You know, don't take candy, which some people think, the kids love me so much, you're giving them candy. What do you expect? You know, so they don't have a communication. When I do take things in all the time, is oranges, fruit, and toothbrushes and toothpaste. But the real trick is communications. They know I'm there to help. They'll tell me what they need. That's a difficult one. People have tried over the years, small groups have gone in there and they've got some of the girls into the sweatshops operating machines. The problem here with these people is their only skill is scavenging now in a garbage dump. And also when people outside the factories where they took these girls and so on, they actually look down on them. They're a little bit offset from the rest of society. So I knew they wouldn't work. You cannot take them out of the garbage dump and put them in a shop or a factory. They've got no skills anyway. So I had to come up with something where they could operate inside the garbage dump and learn skills. I was lucky enough to purchase a small hut. I call it a community centre. 5 girls now work in there. They've learned how to do accounting, they cook for others, they do the small shop selling little snacks. And so now they're learning skills to work in a shop and some accounting. As time goes on, they will be able to take them somewhere with them. And that's the plan now, is to give them opportunities to learn things inside the dump. We're teaching some of the kids music. Who knows what's going to happen there? You know, we might have a bunch of rock stars for all I know. So you're always trying to find ways to operate within the environment you're in. They're in a hard place there because they've had to escape basically from Burma. We're right on the border of Burma. So they just set up and started scavenging to try and make some money. They can't go back and they can't go forward. And there's children being born here as well. And one of the things I have to do is make sure they get registered, because if they're not registered, they're really in a hard place. Who are they? Where do they come from? Managed to get some of my ID cards, but technically they're totally illegal. The upside of that is the fact that they're working. They're not refugees, they're working. And Thai people are buying what they are collecting. So there's a money chain. And when people make money in Thailand, don't mess with it. So that's a little bit of leverage for them. We are working on getting them better documentation. At this time, we've got some of them partial documentation, which means they can stay on the garbage dump, but they can't go to town, they can't go there, they can't go anywhere. And that's where the truck and what I do is really important. I take them to the market, I take them to the clinic. If they're in my truck and with me, that's their security. If they're out on their own, they're so vulnerable. So this truck really does a lot. It's everything. This is a truck just like the building. It's got multiple roles. It's a bit of a problem to keep it maintained. It gets a real beat in the truck. It's a Ford Ranger, and it will carry as many as 40 people. So, you know, what I really find not just exciting but doable with this what I'm doing is that we're talking now around about 350 people. We've got millions of people fleeing from Syria. I don't know what you do with that. You've got refugee camps everywhere. There's so many people that for an individual it would be difficult. But with 350 people, you can put your arms around this. You can sort of say, okay, this is it, you know, and you feel like you can get to know all those people. You can start to understand the problems better and then find solutions to get these people not just off the garbage dump, but also into a better life. And it's very doable with that amount of people. As I said, with like a refugee camp, let's say 60,000 people, I don't know what you do with that. I'm not saying it's not, I haven't given it a lot of thought. I'm sure if you thought about it, you could do something. It's just like anything else. You've got to start somewhere. And then as you start, then you see the problems, you create the solutions. That's what life is. Well, I think an individual, it seems to my experience so far, can do a lot more than some of these very bureaucratic agencies that claim to do things. It depends how you look at life. You look at the globe. We all live on this one piece of rock, and we're certainly not taking very good care of it. Do we rely on agencies or governments to fix it? I don't think that's going to work. It relies on individuals. And I think in poverty is a huge problem. It puts birth control out of control. We've got a huge problem with overpopulation. With poverty often comes crime. You've got the drug problem and what people do in poverty to get anything. Is this our problem? I personally think it is. If we're not prepared to get up and do something to solve that problem, we're all doomed to failure. Because agencies struggle to do it. They've lost their direction. So are you a responsible individual? If you are, do something. Find something to do. Or maybe help someone who is doing something. Don't just run off with a silly idea, which so many people do. It's got to be positive, it's got to work. But we're all responsible. And I've often said with human rights, we're all on the list. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. And is there someone out there to help you? Who knows? Well, the finances are always a problem. The first year I did it myself. I managed to finance it through my own money. And then people started to help out a little bit. You know, not all of us are very good at asking for money. I've never been in that position. And almost like, can you give me some money? It doesn't even sound right. But I started finding people. What I would do is I'd sort of take them with me. I got a truck. I'd take them with me to the garbage dump and show them what's going on. And then I'd say, you know, can you help? Some people would offer money. Some people would offer services. But when people offered me money, I would say, okay, why don't you come with me to the market? We'll buy the produce, we'll buy what we need, and then come back with me and you can help distribute it. Part of that was to get people involved, you know, showing them that they can do something. Sending money is one thing, but getting your hands on it is another thing. And those people, I hope, remember what they did and got involved. Right now we're 5 years into this and we're trying different ways of fundraising. Thanks again to people just took the same attitude as I did. You know what, we can do something. A wonderful lady, Eileen, set up a non-profit for us. Barbara runs a kind of an office system. My good friend Ron Rezick runs as treasurer and ideas man. So we've progressed from absolutely nothing to a very small organisation that can actually do a lot of big things. If you're a medical person, I'll always take medical help. But it's like everything else. Right now, for me, it comes back to money. Not a huge amount of money. Everything I need is 15 minutes away from where these people are stuck. So I can buy food, I can buy medicine, I can buy, I buy local, like the roofing, for instance. I'm supporting the people that make it, and I'm getting it at a really good price. If an NGO of some sort went in there, they'd cost them 100 times more, and it'll probably be finished. The rain will be over by the time they get it done, because that's how it's structured. You either buy a truck or you rent a truck, you hire people to do this, you travel around, you pay top price, then you've got to get it back, and then you pay people to do it. We've cut all that out. I only need one truck, and they're fixing their own roofs. So it's money.